Hello and welcome back for another installment in our Courtroom Confidential Conversation series, where we are pulling back the curtain on some of the voices and faces in true crime you've likely seen, heard, and maybe even followed for years. We're talking to creators, podcasters, YouTubers, the people who dig deep into the cases we discuss every week. But now we're turning the spotlight on the storytellers themselves, digging deep into their story to find out what influenced their journey into true crime, what fuels their passion, and the moments that have shaped their path. For this episode, please join me in welcoming a working public defender with a full-time caseload, legal commentator, and host of Natalie Lawyer Chick on YouTube, Natalie Whittingham Burrell. Hey, Natalie, how are you?
Hey Josh, I'm great. How are you?
I'm very, very good. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know that you are a working attorney and how slipping in a few spare moments is precious time for you. So I appreciate you carving out some time to have a conversation with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm
No,
honored.
absolutely. Oh, please, we're honored. I am a big fan of yours. I've been following your channel for some time, and I think part of that is I'm in awe being a working attorney myself, seeing another working attorney juggling all that there is to do while you're trying to keep your clients out of prison, and then also managing to put on a YouTube channel and all the other things that you're up to. So I've watched you and been amazed by that, but I don't know much about you personally. And so this is kind of the point of this conversation. I'm hoping to learn a little bit more about you. So just jump right into it. Tell us first where did you grow up and what was the plan as far as becoming a lawyer? Is that something you knew you always wanted to do?
That is such a good question, and you'll see why I think it's a really good question. So I'm from originally from Queens, New York. I kind of grew up all over the place, as in all over the country. My mom moved us around a lot, but I spent junior high school, college, and law school in Queens, New York. So I think of that as home. And my mother and all of my family are originally from Kingston, Jamaica. So I
Oh.
lived in a community that was very insularly West Indian. Where I grew up, it was near what's called Jamaica, Queens. So I grew up with a Jamaican accent and I grew up around mostly West Indian people. I guess if you think about people that like live in Little Italy or Chinatown or something, my American childhood experience was very much an immigrant's experience. So that was my coming up time. And I always wanted to be a lawyer. Isn't that something? And,
Ah,
it's
it
very
is.
strange, but I was very young. I mean, 6 or 7 years old, and people would ask me, "What do you wanna be when you grow up?" And I said, "I wanted to be a lawyer." And at that time, I don't even think I really knew what that meant, but I liked arguing with people, and I knew that lawyers did that and got paid to
Is
do it.
that is that what attracted you? The idea that I could get paid to have an argument? Or is there people in your life that had taken that career path?
No one in my life had taken that career path. I don't know
Wow.
if I saw something on TV. I really don't even remember why, as a little child, I thought that that was something that I wanted to do. And I remember my mom saying when I was still small, I really would prefer that you become a nurse because you like to fight and disagree with people so much. I don't want you to get held in contempt of court. So I remember her telling me that. She was absolutely right. I was very talkative and argumentative as a little kid. And so, but as I got older, of course, I, explored other options and I thought about other things. And I actually flirted with the idea of becoming a psychologist. And I got my bachelor's undergrad in psychology. But what ended up happening was that my mother became an incarcerated person. My mother was incarcerated. And this happened in my teens. And so I
Wow.
decided that I saw that experience, and she had a legal aid attorney, which in New York is the equivalent of the public defenders we have across the country. And I was actually extremely impressed by her legal aid attorney. Her attorney worked extremely hard on her case and was like reaching out to the family and everything and keeping us us in the loop was which was I didn't even know it at the time, extraordinary given their caseloads. And I said, I want to be like my mom's legal aid attorney. So I definitely want to be a lawyer and I want to help people like my mom. And so that is what made me decide that that was really my career path. So it was a childish wish where I didn't really know what it really meant other than you get to argue with people and get paid for it. And then it had real world application because the criminal justice system directly impacted my family. And so I said, okay, I need to step into this. And I decided that criminal defense was what I wanted to do. And when became a lawyer, there was no question for me that I would be anything but a criminal defense attorney. And so that's what I started out with.
Wow. And have you been that? First of all, I want to thank you so much for sharing that personal side of your life with your mother that must have affected you. I mean, we talked to a lot of people who were lawyers, but I can't think of anyone who has had it impact their life at such a young age and
Mhm.
made that part of who they became. Then is that
Mhm.
what you have always been then as a criminal defense attorney?
So I started out as a criminal defense attorney. I started out with the Maryland Office of the Public Defender, and I was there from 2010 until 2015. And then I got the bright idea that I wanted to try to do something different and I can practice another area of law. And I interviewed at this very lovely law firm with these very determined workers' compensation attorneys. And they hired me, even though I had no compensation experience. It was a terrible fit. It had nothing to do with them and everything to do with me. I just could not take it seriously enough. I just was like, well, no one's going to prison. So what are we arguing about
Right,
here? What is
right.
the problem, you know? And so but I really what it was nice to peel the curtain back from lawyers that are representing people that are injured on the job. It's a very important job that they do. It just was not for me. I couldn't lock into it. It wasn't my passion. And so I left and I returned to the public defender's office because it was my home, you know? I just
No,
absolutely love that job. I love those clients, and I love the mission of it, representing
yeah.
the indigent people that can't otherwise afford it.
Wow. Yeah, talk about a career that will give you perspective on what is really something to worry about or not. I tease my wife about this because she comes her career before we got involved in all of this YouTube world was
Mhm.
dealing with people in Hollywood and movie making, and it was incredibly stressful for her. But I remember teasing her, going, what is everybody getting all worked up about? Nobody's going to prison. There's no dead body here. What are we all so bent out of shape about? So I completely
That's right.
understand how moving from something like criminal defense to even a different practice of the law, you kind of are like, what, let's all take a deep breath. No, at the end of the
Yes.
day, we're all going to sleep in our beds at night.
Oh,
But
yeah,
the
yeah,
public defenders is even more so because, like you just said, these are folks who don't have any other alternative. You are it for them. Is
that
that
is
part
right.
of what attracts you and drives you? Is this idea that these people have almost nowhere else to turn?
That's right. That's a big part of it, right? I'm their last resort, and 9 out of 10 times out of 10, they didn't choose me, right? And they're afraid because they don't know if you care, if you're passionate, if you're prepared, if they are just another number to you. And every single client, I approach them as, and it doesn't matter what they say to me, I am proving to you that I am going to give you the best possible representation that I can give you, that I'm going to give you the type of representation that money cannot buy. Okay. You matter that much to me. This is professional for me, but it's also personal for me because with each and every single one of my clients, I see somebody that I grew up with and around. In my female clients that are older, I see my mom. I see people and their humanity, and that's what makes the job so worth it for me. They're not a number, they're not a billable hour, they're a human being. They're very important to me, and so many of my colleagues are just like that, and that's what makes that job so important.
Incredibly important and incredibly self-sacrificing. I was a DA for about 10 years, and I dealt with the public defenders all the time. I mean, the vast majority of cases that are being handled in the criminal justice system, it's a public defender against a district attorney. Very, very few percentage-wise are handled actually by private attorneys, and I was always in awe of what you just said, and I'd like you to maybe expand on it a little bit, but that your clients aren't necessarily all that grateful sometimes too, because they don't know who you are. You've just been assigned to them. They don't know how much you care. They don't know how busy you might be. They don't know the sweat, tears, and toil that you're putting into their case. And sometimes they may take that a little bit for granted with some of the stuff that I witnessed. So it's not only
Mhm.
that you're not getting the greatest paycheck in the entire world, but even on the gratitude side of things, it's not always entirely fulfilling.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So if you're doing it for the gratitude of your clients, good luck. Good luck, because that's not sometimes you have to know inside of yourself and have the confidence that, "No, really, I looked at all the issues in this case. I read all the discovery. I consulted with whatever experts were relevant, and applicable to this case. I communicated these things to the client. The client still hates my guts, but I
Right.
he's gonna come out of this case, with the experience that despite the fact that you hated my guts, I'm giving you the best that I can, right? They
Yeah.
their expression of gratitude is immaterial, because sometimes what it is though is they can't attack the DA or the state as we call them in Maryland. They can't yell and scream at them. They can't write them nasty letters. They're afraid they're going to offer them a bad plea offer and have them locked up. They can't attack the judge. They can't attack the person that's accusing them. A lot of times they're in jail. They can't do anything about it. Who's the only person going to see them and talk to them? Their public defender, who they didn't ask for, they didn't pay for, they don't want to be here. And we have attorney client privilege. They can vent all their frustrations on us. A lot of the times it has very little to do with us and more to do with the fact that these people are stuck. They're stuck in a situation that they did not anticipate being stuck in, and now they have to navigate this. And so attempting to build trust is so important, but short of trust, showing diligence is sometimes the best thing that you can do for that client.
Yeah. I don't
Mm.
and I don't say this I say this as a huge compliment. I don't know how you do it. Like, I don't know if I have it in me because I do, at least at the end of the day, if I'm going to get beaten up and trashed by the judge and jumped on by the DA, I at least want a client who's appreciative of what I'm doing. But if I'm getting it from everybody, including
Mhm.
my client, who at the end of the day would fire me if they could, I respect everything that you do. Did you ever
Thank
think about you thought about obviously leaving because you went to do the workers' comp for a little bit. Did you ever think about
you.
just going into private practice as a criminal attorney?
I did, and I so after I left the law firm, it's so funny. I won't say his name on here, but there was an attorney when I started, at the public defender's office. It's a bunch of things. I started the public defender's office in Maryland, in this part of Maryland called the Eastern Shore of Maryland, right? And I don't know if you've ever heard about the Eastern Shore, but that's where Ocean City is, Salisbury. Those are like the two main places over there. Most people don't know about it. It's this peninsula off the tip of Maryland, and it's pretty removed from the rest of the state because you just need to get across this bridge to get to the rest of the state. So it's kind of got this like real southern charm to it and everything like that. So when I first go there, I am first working as an intern, and then I work as a law clerk, and then I become an attorney for the public defender's office. And there's this really awesome gregarious guy that starts there, and he's a older person who became an attorney later on in life. So I'm showing him the ropes and everything. We become good buddies. Everybody down there on the Eastern Shore that practices in the public defender's office, we're all friends because there's not much going on. And so anyway, I decided to make this brilliant leap to the DC area and go to this workers' compensation firm, crash and burn, doesn't work out for me, leave. And then I say, I'm going to do private practice. I'll work for myself, right? I'm going to build an established thing. And I got a few cases and it was, okay, but I was not loving doing all of the like kind of more like administrative work of entering my
Business
appearance
side of it.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I did it. Oh, and the client trust protection account. I didn't like that at all. I did not like handling clients' money. It scared me because I was like, if I make a mistake and with the client's money, that's your license right there, you know? So
Right.
that's one thing they take very seriously. So I'm in Prince George's County District Court, which is the area that I'm in now. And I'm just muttering to myself as I'm want to do as I'm leaving court because I'm like, I've just concluded this case and now I got to go sit down and do my bookkeeping. And God, I hate doing bookkeeping, but I've got to go do this for like an hour and write up everything that I've done in this case. Who do I run into but my former person that I mentored, who was the older person who became a newer attorney? He was in the public defender's office in Prince George's County. He left the Eastern Shore, which is about 3 hours away, and just we just happened to run into each other. And he's like, Natalie, what are you doing here? And I'm like, so and so, what are you doing here? And I tell him I have this case. I'm doing private practice now. I hate it because I hate doing billing. And he goes, well, I'm here at the public defender's office. I have transferred up here to this part of Maryland. Why don't you come back to the public defender's office? And I said, oh, bless you. I'm going back right now. I was in the moment arguing with
Wow.
myself about if I should go and get my books together right now or take a nap and then get back to it. And I just hating the whole part of the business side of things. And I run into my friend who says, well, I'm kind of higher up now and I'll rehire you right now. And I
I love
said,
it.
I am coming today, right this second. Where's my office? And I never looked back.
I love it. What I love about this too is that so many people part of the journey in life is finding something that you love doing, right? And we all, I think, sometimes feel like what I'm doing now. I love, but maybe there's something else out there. And until you dip your toes into other things, and it sounds like with you especially, life just
Mm,
kept on telling you, no, 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 no. This is what you're meant to do. This is what you're
that's
built for. This is where you're going to thrive, and you just accepted it.
I did. I did. I learned my lesson, right? I had the
Yeah.
opportunities, and over the years, different prosecuting offices have, extended offers to me and things like that. And I think that I would work very diligently at that job. But this is where my heart and my passion is, right? It just is. It gives me a spark. I think about, my difficult cases. I think about the trials that I'm about to go into where I'm like, "Oh gosh, this is not looking good. We're going to lose, but we've got all these great issues and I'm going to raise all these motions in limine and I'm chipping away at the state's case as much as I can." There is no other job where I have ever felt that excited to wake up in the morning and have a difficult day. If you want to
Huh.
wake up and like your toughest day at work, you're like, "Let's go to battle." That is where you should be. So I am where I should be.
That is fantastic. I love that. I love the idea of the bad days still put a smile on your face. That's fantastic.
They do. They do.
So, how many years has it been now? And then tell us if you can, because I know, having been on the other side, public defenders deal with a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of losing on that side of the courtroom, and it's
Right.
nothing to do with the quality of the lawyers. It's all to do with the way our system is set up, and partially that's kind of how it should work, and partially
That's
that's
how it
how it
should be.
shouldn't work, right?
Mhm.
But are there cases that you can, as I sit here and ask you, that you think back on? This one was a real battle that I'm proud of, or this one broke my heart. Is there anything that you could share with us?
Yeah, I can. So I think I have one case to give as an example where I was both proud of it and it broke my heart, right?
No.
And it was this young lady who was charged with let's just say a very serious, heinous offense. And it was my belief, and still is my belief, that she was factually actually innocent. But it's one of those type of cases where the jury hears the allegations and your client will probably go down just based on the allegations alone. If the alleged victim gets up and say this thing happened to me, it's just so heart-wrenching. Why would anyone lie about that? You're going to believe it. We fought hard in this case. We knew going into the trial that it was going to be extremely, extremely difficult given the allegations that were being made by the victim who was vulnerable. And, the complaining witness or the victim got to testify. My client got to testify. I hammered in on what the state could and could not get into to make sure that they weren't prejudicing the jury against her. And ultimately, what happened is we won the vast majority of the case. We beat the plea offer. You know about that. So it's where the state makes a plea offer that's kind of harsh. And so you decide, we're just going to go to trial, even though we don't think we can necessarily win, in the hopes that the client is not convicted on those counts that the state was asking for, so that we can negotiate with the court directly for a better sentencing. We beat the plea offer. And the only thing that she was convicted of was the very lowest offense. The collateral consequences to her were extremely reduced, and her exposure to jail time was reduced as well. As you know, maybe within a month, she was out of jail after the trial. That is amazing given the allegations that there were in the case. That case still haunts me. I know I worked hard on that case. We beat the plea offer on the case. I knew that there was a real strong possibility she would get convicted of something, and I thought it could have been one of the top counts. So it was a win, and I lose sleep over it till this day. I've had clients after a trial get, maybe like in a homicide or something, get like 80 years or something, like something real serious. Like that's happened before. And those days suck. But this lady only did about 30 days in jail, and I cried and I had to remove
Wow.
myself from the courtroom so I wouldn't cry as she was getting sentenced, because I really believed in her innocence. And so that was a case that was both a good and a bad day for me.
Wow. That's a great,
Mhm.
great example of that. It is
Mm.
hard to explain to people who haven't lived it how much of a burden you can carry in some of these cases. And like you said, it may not be the person who's done all these horrible things and you're sitting next to a very guilty person, but it's the person that you feel like this is ending up wrong, and you're though you're not the one who's going to have the handcuffs and go off to live behind bars, you almost feel like you're taking that loss as hard as they are. It's hard to explain to people who haven't lived through it.
It's really hard to explain. One time I tried to express it on Twitter, worst place to try to express it, and it was very much misunderstood. Worst place, don't not express your feelings on there. But it was very much misunderstood, and the thing that I was trying to say was this: when you know in your heart, in your lawyer heart, this client is factually innocent. They're actually innocent. It's not, oh, they're going to be found not guilty because there was a bad search or there was an illegally collected statement, or my prosecutor is not as experienced as I am. And so I'm getting to beat up all over them during the trial. When you know that your client is innocent going into a trial, that is the absolute worst emotionally for many public defenders, because there is the risk. Most of my clients going into trial, when I totally believe that they did not do this thing, they're factually innocent. Most of the times they have been acquitted, but the ones that get convicted, you never forget them, right? You just never do.
Yeah. No,
Mhm.
100%. I get the question, I'm sure you get this quite often too, is like, how do you do that? How do you defend these people? And it's kind of I get where it's coming from, but I think it kind of doesn't appreciate kind of the nuance of our system and everything else. But I tell people that it's not the ones that are I think are guilty, and they even know that they're guilty, and we're just trying to protect their rights and shelter them through this system. It's the people that there's something wrong happening here, and everybody's got it all wrong, and the judge isn't seeing it right, and the prosecutor's not seeing it right, and you're praying
Yes.
that perhaps the jury will see it right. Those are the ones that you lose sleep over.
They're the absolute worst. They really, really are. And I every single one of them, no matter the outcome, I remember. I'm terrible at names. I remember their names. I remember their
Wow.
faces. And I've represented at this point maybe thousands of people, and I still remember those people where I said to myself, this is totally wrong. I just had a
Yeah.
trial that I just came out of last week. I think we got the verdict back. It was like a almost 2-week trial. And it was so hard for me because it was hard not to stand in front of the jury and throw my hands up and go, "Obviously, he didn't do this. Like, what are we doing here?"
Right.
That doesn't respect the gravity of the moment in a closing argument. That's not an appropriate closing argument. But that's how I felt, and I had to really prep that closing so I could make sure that I would still go through all the points of reasonable doubt and things like that. And they came to the right decision. They did acquit him, but my goodness, that case was tough. It was tough because you know that this person should not be here.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
How many trials to verdict do you think that you've done now in your career?
Um, gosh, one of my coworkers, she keeps a running tally of hers, and I said I really should have done that when I started. But if I can guess, it's hard. I'm thinking maybe over 100. I can say
Wow.
that pretty confidently. I just don't know how far over 100 jury trials that I've had. I mean, just to give some perspective, I've been trying cases not in front of a judge to a jury to a verdict since 2012. So,
Yeah.
and if you keep a caseload the size that I keep, then over 100.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
my point being, there's a lot of people on the internet. There's a lot of people on YouTube who are, following court trials and giving their analysis. But if you want to hear, ladies and gentlemen, listening in, somebody with some real experience, somebody who's picked over 100 juries, somebody who's argued to 100 different juries and kind of knows what it's like to go through the crucible of all of that, then you have to absolutely check out Natalie's channel, which brings me to my next question. You are busy, you are overwhelmed. This is a job that you don't just close the door on, turn off the lights to your office and go home and forget all about it. How in the world do you manage all of that and still manage to put on this channel? But before you get to that, how did it all start?
Okay, how did it all start? So funnily enough, maybe that informs why I'm still able to run this channel because I honestly, who knows? But funnily enough, I actually started my YouTube channel. It was a whole different iteration back in maybe 2009. It was like the first or few years of YouTube, right? And
Uh-huh.
was I in law school or college? I think I was in law school, and I was definitely in law school. And as you can see, my hair is dreadlocks, and I had just started my dreadlocks, and I was going online trying to find other people that were doing their own hair at home and how they were doing it. And I learned from them, and then people started asking me out on the street, "How are you doing your hair like that?" And so I said, "Oh, let me
No.
record some videos." And I was a
I
beauty
love this.
YouTuber.
I love this. I did
I was
not
a
see that coming. I love it.
Yes. And I called my channel New 211 because that was I think, I went to NYU undergrad, and I think that was like my, NYU undergrad email was new 211 or something like that at nyu.com or something. So I did that, and I did that for a few years. And for just someone who uploaded very sporadically, I got like 4,000 subscribers, which at the
Oh,
time was
wow.
amazing. It was amazing.
Huge. Yeah.
And I was talking on my little rinky dink like HP laptop or something like that. It was a mess, but it was a lot of fun. And then I promptly forgot about it after maybe a year or two. And fast forward to go on, become a lawyer, start living my life and everything like that. And I meet my husband in 2017, and of course, it's the digital dating age, so he looked me up, and he said, "Oh my goodness, you used to have a YouTube channel." And I said, "Yeah."
Because the internet never dies, folks,
Yes,
right?
and I had forgotten all about it, right? Like, really
Right.
had forgotten about it. I was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I did used to do that. It's the thing I used to do, I stopped doing it." He said, "Why? You were great." And I'm like, "You're putting me on, you're just, shining me on here." And he goes, "No, I really think that you're really, really good." And then he goes, "I watch these guys online that react to sovereign citizens. There's, like, these, interesting people that come into court and just do everything differently. And there's people online that react to them. And I bet you they would like to see a lawyer react to them." And I said, I mean, okay. I mean, I can try to do one video of that, but I kind of put it aside. And then something happened. The global thing happened, the pandemic. And I had some downtime because we weren't going into the courthouse and everything was being done virtually. So I said, "Okay, I have some time." And my husband he every so often he would bring it up. "You really should go back to that YouTube channel. You're really good at it." And I'm like, "You're just putting on." But I started doing reactions to courthouse drama, which included Moorish citizens and sovereign
I
citizens and things
love
like
this.
that.
Is this
Mhm.
on the same channel? You just took your old channel back and said, "Hey,
I
everybody,
just renamed it.
I hope you
Yeah, I
enjoyed the
just
beauty tips, but now we're gonna watch some courtroom reactions."
didn't even address it, okay? Just started doing courtroom
Right.
reactions like, what, 8 years hadn't passed, and I was just like, "Oh, here I am, like, looking like an actual child 8 years ago. I'm back now. I'm a lawyer, and I wanna talk to you about these sovereign citizens in court," and my audience went, "Okay." And they just came along for the ride, and I then started reacting to, actual court cases that were more contemporary, like Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez, I think, was one of the first cases that I covered. And I started to build up a little following from there, maybe about 10,000 subscribers, something like that.
Mhm.
Then Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard happened. And
Mhm.
one of my subscribers in the comment section says, "You really need to react to that. Everyone's talking about it." I said, "Okay, I'm not a civil attorney, but I sure can have some insights." And I start reacting to that, upticked my channel just like that. So
Wow.
from there, I started to cover just a mixture of things. So sometimes when there's downtime in the news, maybe I'll find a video of someone doing a pro se plea or a child custody issue, and I'll talk about why that's important. And then if there's an active trial, I follow it along with the subscribers and we talk about it, and it's great. The way that I'm able to maintain it, I think, is that number 1, I treat it like a hobby. So to me, analytics do not matter. Um, Revenue doesn't matter. I have a job, It is something that I do because I enjoy it and I feel very passionately about sharing legal knowledge with the general public because when you get into something for so long, you don't realize how many other people don't know what you know, right? And so I was
Yeah.
like, who cares about what I think about the law? But, basic things like be quiet when you're approached by the police and ask for an attorney. A lot of people just had not internalized that. So, because I treated it like something that was a compliment to my life, something that I enjoy doing, but not something that I have to do, it made it extremely easy for me to be relatively consistent with it. And anytime I'm about to go into trial, I tell them, "Hey guys, going into trial for the next few weeks, you're not going to see me, but I'll see you on the other side when I get back." And the algorithm gods, they'll punish me for that for a little bit, and then it comes back. It's fine. Like that's how I treat it, and so I think because I'm not on a set schedule and my subscribers don't expect that from me, they're extremely understanding of the fact that I'm a practicing lawyer. They're not asking for me to be a full-time YouTuber. And that give and take, I think, is what gives me the flexibility to be able to do it in my spare time.
And the freedom and the joy that you still have doing it.
I love it. It's so much
Yeah.
fun. It's so much
Yeah.
fun.
Do
Mhm.
you ever feel a pull, or does anyone outside ever try to pull you into making it more of a full-time endeavor and saying, "Hey, You're obviously good at this. People enjoy watching you. You're growing.
Yeah.
You really need to take a leap into this whole crazy world. Do you ever get that?
Yeah. I have. I've gotten it from subscribers, from my hubby. He's extremely supportive, you know.
Right.
I think he just gets such a kick out of me doing this. He thinks it's so great. And you know, people that are in the industry and things like that. I've had some feelers put out there and people telling me, you know, that you should really take the leap. But here's the thing. I love being a public defender way too much. And it
Yeah.
even is maybe because I know, you know, sometimes when the job gets a little tough, the real job, the public defender job, I can always think to myself, man, I can just go do YouTube. And then I laugh at myself, like, no, you cannot. You know that you need to go into a courtroom. You know, I need it. I need that um that interaction. I need that stretching of my brain muscle. Like I need that.
Yeah.
It fulfills me so much. Like the job fulfills me personally, and then I get to do a service and help people in my community. I can't give that up. Yeah, so I don't think that there's any amount of money or potential fame that would ever take the place of being a public defender. And I know that sounds super crazy, but that's just how I feel, you know?
No, I think one thing I'm learning is that life has let you know what you are here for, and you have embraced that, and you're not fighting it anymore. And I
No.
appreciate that. How about from the other side of things? I'm curious about because your channel is not small, it does have a following of people. I can't imagine that people you work with, coworkers, maybe people, in the DA side of things, clients, does that ever come up that people recognize you from that, give you some grief over that? I don't know.
Yeah. So thankfully, I don't get a lot of grief over it, you know? And that's
Okay.
kind of what so when we were coming out of the pandemic, we were going back to in person. I had heard that it was getting around that I was on YouTube, right? Like people were finding out about it. And I was so afraid that people were going to make fun of me or think somehow I wasn't taking my job seriously because I was doing this. But that's not the reaction I've been getting. So judges have mentioned it to me, you know, in passing, or they'll like when we're picking a jury and then every time they make you stand up and say, does anybody recognize the prosecutor or the defense attorney? I will
Uh-huh.
get several judges teasing me, like, afterwards, like, "I'm surprised nobody stood up," you know? Um, so I think most people just think it's kind of funny, which is totally fine because that's just my personality, like, I think most things are funny anyway, so that's fine. And as far as, you know, clients, maybe I'll say this here, don't email me on my YouTube email address, guys. Like,
What?
you can
That's not the
yeah,
best way to
don't
get
do
a hold of you?
please don't do that. I promise don't do that. That's not safe. But yeah, so I mean, other than that, like, you know, because they're trying to get in contact with you. And so they'll be like, I'll DM you on Instagram or something. I think
Yeah.
that's the only thing. And I want to make sure that their information is private and protected. That's my only concern. I don't mind that the family members or the clients know about my YouTube. And in fact, sometimes I make a little joke, like if I'm streaming late at night, I'll say, and I know some of my clients are at the jail watching me right now, go to bed, lights out, you know, or I'll say, now, what I just said, that the police can listen to your jail phone calls. I'm talking to all of you that are in jail right now. The police can listen to your phone calls and they will. Go to bed. Good night, you know? So I have a little fun with it. And sometimes the clients will tell me, oh, I heard about you being on YouTube, or I saw you on TV or something like that. And I'll ask them, like, how does that make you feel? Like, are you okay with that? And they're like, I mean, yeah, you're gonna work hard for me, right? I'm like, absolutely. Okay, let's do this thing. So most of the responses have been pretty positive.
That's awesome. How
Mhm.
has because you're so entrenched in the world of dealing with people who are not on TV. And these are not famous cases. These are incredibly impactful and important cases to the people that you're dealing with, but there's not a bunch of TV cameras in the courtroom. How
Yeah.
does how does that has that been difficult for you to then all of a sudden start to cover some case that's making a lot of headlines, and to take it seriously or not view it as just entertainment? How does that all how do you reconcile all of that?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a really good question. So I think for myself, even when I'm covering a case and I'm doing a little gallows humor, that's what I would do in my own cases anyway. So I still take all of those cases very seriously. And I think the only real commentary I've ever had on it was I don't think, I mean, I'm being a little hypocritical here. So I generate a channel off of reacting to people's criminal cases being in the public eye. But with my own cases, I try to keep them out of the public eye as much as
Sure.
possible. You know, our local paper is the Washington Post. So anytime they reach out to me about any of my cases, it's always no comment, no comment. And the lovely reporter from there that comes and covers the court cases in our county, and she comes and sits in there. She knows me by face. I know her by face, but I'm never going to talk to her. Right. And so a lot of the times I'll have commentary on the fact that some defense attorneys, I think, are too public with their cases and prejudice their clients ultimately. But then on the flip side of that, I'm getting to react to it because they're allowing the case to be so public. So that's really the only commentary I have on it. I definitely take those cases still seriously. And I always try to remind myself and my clients, doesn't matter what you think about this person, this defendant, they're a real person. They've got real family members. These things are truly impacting them, and it's hard to empathize with someone that you see as a monster, but please still remember that any of us could be charged with a crime any day of the week. It could happen to anybody. So just try to keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you do a lot of streaming is kind of primarily what you focused on your channel, right?
Yeah.
With that streaming, it's a lot of interaction. You've got dozens, thousands sometimes of people watching at the same time and all commenting.
Mm.
That explain to tell us how that has your reaction to that. I don't know.
Yeah.
How has that been something you've enjoyed? Are there downsides to it, or is it something that you just really enjoy?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I like that one because streaming as a whole, like you've got YouTube,
Yeah,
which unless you're on YouTube, to most people, YouTube seems like a weird thing to most people, right? Like you're just
right.
a regular person uploading things to the internet. Okay. And then there's that subsection of us real weirdos, the streamers, right?
Yeah,
And
that's a better way of putting it. There
yeah,
that
yeah.
there's YouTube, there's putting out videos, there's just letting people see, here's how I do my hair. But then there's
Right.
live streaming where you're inviting people to interact with you. That's a whole
Yeah.
new world. And that's my question is
Yeah.
how have you received that?
Yeah. So I think if I had thought about it, I would have used that to answer one of your first questions. I think that's why I'm able to do this consistently is because you can live stream at any time. You can just like go ahead, like tweet out or text out to everybody, I'm about to be on stream right now. And then your audience will come. Not all of them, but some of them. And then they'll come and watch the replay later, whichever ones couldn't make it. Right. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. Some streamers have a set schedule, but a lot of us don't. A lot of us just stream when we're able to. So you don't have to edit a video and take the downtime to do that. And then we all know the back end of YouTube with uploading things that takes forever. Like you don't have to do any of that. You just do the stream. So in that way, it's easier. When it comes to the live streaming, it feeds you because you're talking directly to your audience. You know what they want to see. And it's almost like a cheat code. They're telling you, like, next time, could you cover this, please? Oh, Natalie, you made a mistake when you said such and such. I read the document. It actually said this. Here, let me post it to you in the chat and send it to you so that you can read it yourself. And if you build a good community, and I believe that my channel is Natalie Lawyer Chick. I believe the Natalie Lawyer Chick community is amazing. They're just awesome people. You build this good community, then it almost becomes like talking to a community that you built. Now, I try to make sure that they know we're not family here, okay? Let's not get the parasocial relationships going on. Let's have a healthy distance. But when we're talking to each other, we're talking to each other like human beings, like colleagues, and I respect their intelligence and they respect mine. Some of the drawbacks are that you've got trolls like anywhere on the internet. And a lot of the times, trolls will search certain topics so that they can attack or your stream and try to overwhelm it or something like that so that they're commenting useless things that are either mean or disparaging in some way and hoping to throw you off. And I think for my first like maybe month of live streaming, it would catch me off guard and I would read them and be like, "Hey, don't say that. That's really mean. You know, we're nice to each other here," which we are. We are nice to each other here. And then you grow a thick skin and you learn. You get your moderators together. You set some rules for your stream. You block those people. Don't give them the incentive to come back and act silly. But really, they're really the only real drawback to it, and that's people that are just hell bent on bothering other people. But you get that in any corner of the internet. And I'm a millennial. I'm a child of the internet. We're fine, you know. So I really
Yeah.
find live streaming to be just to give you that like human interaction. They're not just
Yeah.
subscribers. They're, my people and we talk, So I like
Yeah.
that.
Well, you have built or attracted, however you want to put it, this incredible community of people. They are wonderful folks. But they're also part of this kind of larger true crime community. How
Absolutely.
involved are you in that? Like something that's coming to mind is Crime Con. Have you gone? Do you think about going? Do you think about getting involved more in that larger umbrella of the true crime world?
Yeah. First of all, I love true crime to consume on my own by myself. Best
Okay.
genre that there is. So much fun to watch. Hate to say that, but I can fall asleep to, investigative discovery or whatever that channel is called. Um
Right.
but so for CrimeCon, for example, every year since I've started back doing YouTube in like 2019, 2020, every single year I have been in trial when CrimeCon comes around. So I've
Mm,
never been able to go. Hopefully one year I will not be in trial, or maybe I'll get to block it off, but you block time off as a public defender. It's not a real thing. You don't really get to take any time off. But maybe one day I'll get to block some time off and go to CrimeCon. But yes, I want to get more involved and know more of the people in the true crime space because I absolutely love it. I think we learn so much from it. It's so informative on psychology, law, human interaction, sociology. It's great. I love it.
yeah. Yeah. What and this might be a different question for you, but I ask a lot of the people that we interviewed, like, what are their plans moving forward for their channel, for their podcast? You and I don't want to put words into your mouth. Maybe you do have great plans and everything, but I take it that you're just kind of enjoying the ride, or are there plans down the road?
So every time I try to make plans for my YouTube channel, my criminal defense practice laughs at me. So no. No. My only plan is to find more balance so that I can be a little bit more consistent on the channel. I do hate taking like 3, 4 week breaks. I just hate doing that. But if I could say anything, I did start doing something called the morning docket. So on days where I have the time to before I'm leaving for court, I can dedicate like 30 minutes to stream real quick and say, "Hey, this is some crazy things that's happened to the law. Let's talk about it." And if I can do that more consistently, I think that would be good. But other than that, nope, just hang out with my folks with the lawyer chicklets, cover topics as they come along. I mean, and until it's like I'm doing a live stream and there's no one there, I think I'll just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Like it's great fun. I really enjoy it.
Good for you. Good for you. I appreciate and admire your freedom in all of this. How about a case that you're following? Is there some trial coming up that you're like, oh, this one I'm really hoping I can carve out some time from my criminal law practice because this one I really want to follow.
Right. So what I'm actually hoping is that when Diddy goes to trial, I can save up enough leave days because it's New York and that's where I'm
Yeah.
from. So I can always go back home. I would like to be able to save up some leave days, take like a solid vacation for maybe like a week or two. I'm sure the trial will go on longer than that, but just a reasonable vacation time. May 2025 is when it's set for, and actually go and watch the trial and report back to my audience what I see. Because one of the people that are lawyers that makes YouTube content, I think during the Harvey Weinstein trial, he just went in and sat in and then reported back. And I thought that that was so cool. So maybe, yeah, I'd like to do that. That would be cool.
That'll be a great one too, because it'll be a federal
Mm.
case, so there won't be cameras inside. So getting kind of that firsthand perspective of what it's like inside of the courtroom, I'm gonna watch. I hope that you are able to carve out that time because I'm gonna watch. That'll be
Fingers crossed.
fascinating, and it's gonna be
Fingers crossed.
a fascinating trial too. I mean, talk about a huge fall from grace and all of the stuff that continues to come out about that case.
Diddy fascinates me a lot because I kind of feel like I grew up listening to him. We're both from New York. He's from Harlem. I'm from Queens. I loved Biggie growing up. He was my favorite rapper. I remember when he passed away. I remember being in maybe junior high school or something and crying about it, right? Like I remember how much
Yeah,
I loved everything that he produced, Diddy, and put out. And I loved, Bad Boy and all that. And it threw my mind for a loop when the Cassie lawsuit came out because I always perceived him as the shiny suit, dancing, fun time, white party guy. It never occurred
yeah,
to me that he could possibly be like that. And so I think for me on a personal level, I find it really fascinating because it's about like the psychology of someone who has this persona of this put together fun business mogul and potentially was behind the scenes harming people. I really want to see that trial up close.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. He did definitely cultivate this persona for decades,
Yeah.
and acquire incredible wealth and power along the way. And boy, oh boy, do people seem to be really either, ditching his ship or turning against him. And it's like with each passing day, there's some development that it seems like it's getting to be worse and worse for Mr. Combs.
Yes, I mean, who knew how many people were in the industry were, like, afraid of him and hated him? Because we're seeing that now, right, with the things that people are saying, like you said, ditching him or denouncing him outright. I had no idea. I thought
Yeah.
that he was just, you guys were all going to his parties. I thought you loved him. So it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
crazy to
Right.
learn this. I just
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all those people going to the party, some of them are starting to sweat themselves, I think, with
Yeah.
everything that's coming out.
Yeah, good luck to
Natalie,
them.
this has yeah, right. This has been so much fun. I really enjoyed hearing about your background and the I think my biggest takeaway is it's really nice to meet someone who has figured out what where life where their path in life is, and it's not going to fight it. And so I
Right.
am taking that lesson away from this conversation. Tell us, where can people find out more about you? What is your social media? Where can they find your YouTube? All of that good stuff.
Sure. So I am here on YouTube as Natalie Lawyer Chick. No, I'm not going to make a more professional name. Someone said that to me the other day. Like, don't you think it's time not to call yourself that? No, it's fun. Come on. Uh, you can find me on Instagram as Natalie Lawyer Chick. YouTube. You can find me on Blue Sky as Natalie Lawyer Chick. And you can find me on Threads as Natalie Lawyer Chick.
Fantastic. Thank you again. This was an absolute blast.
Thank you so much, Joshua. I really appreciated this.
We hope you enjoyed this interview. If there's someone else you would like to hear from, a well known creator, or perhaps someone you feel that is being overlooked, please let us know in the comments. And please check out our playlist of past conversations. We appreciate you all. Please remember to like this episode and subscribe for more content like this. And thank you again for joining us for this episode of Courtroom Confidential Conversations.